history. This is the ninth shiur of the three-part series. It's the last shiur in this series. And this shiur is entitled, Where Are We Holding? We're discussing the Keitz, the end time. We're going to discuss what the Rebbe spoke about where we're holding as far as the Keitz, as far as the end of Galus. So just before we begin, just to give a short synopsis of the Shiurim until now. So, we started discussing about the preparations and prerequisites for Mashiach, about eliminating the cause of Galus, which is sinas chinam, about Tshuvah, what's the shiur, how much Tshuvah is necessary, or is Tshuvah necessary for the Geula. And we discussed that it is necessary, but the Rebbe said we did Tshuvah. About the believer is a heretic, about how the importance of not just believing in Mashiach, but awaiting Mashiach, how Hashem is waiting for us to ask when Mashiach should come. And then, in part 2, we discussed the process of the Geula, about the darkness before the light, about in general how it's darker before it becomes more light. Then about the war of Gog and Magog, about if that's going to happen, or when it's going to happen, about Eliyahu Hanavi's arrival, whether that's necessary or not. And then the last part of our series, part 3, is about the Keitz, the end time. So we had, the first discussion was about on our time or his, about the Itach Hishena, about how Mashiach either can come in its time or we can hasten it through Achishena, and what the meaning of that is. We had a shir with Rabbi Walters, and then last week was about calculating the end time, calculating the Keitz, about is that okay, is it not okay, and what is the concept of the different Kitzin, the different end times for the Geula. That was last week with Rabbi Markowitz. So following that, this last year is about where are we holding, about today, where are we up to, we know, we're all familiar what the Rebbe spoke about, how about now is the Zman HaGeula, it's a time of Geula, and so the question is really, is this just another Keitz? Is this another end time, another prediction about when Mashiach came and then we passed it and now we're on to the next thing? Or is it what the Rebbe said different? So I want to, take it back, go back to the sources, discuss it a little bit of a deeper sense, the concept of Kitzin, and I think we'll have an answer to our question when we look into the Rebbe's words. So let's start with the Gmorah. Gmorah in Sanhedrin, Daf Tzadik Zayin Amud Beis, 97b. Omar Rav said, Rav, Kolu Kol HaKitzin. So, there's a little background. The Gmorah before then was discussing different Kitzin, different end times for Galus, when the Geula was going to come. And Rav says, Kolu Kol HaKitzin, that all the end times have passed. That's the literal meaning. Or another meaning is, he's saying that it's not really dependent on the Keitz, on these end times. Rather, it's only dependent on Tshuvah and good deeds. So, we're going to go now over here and discuss a very obvious question in this Gmorah. A question the Rebbe asks, the Farbrengen of Shabbos Parshas Dvorim Tavshin Mem, 1980, that question is, L'choira, wie can the Gmorah zogin kolu kol hakitzin lashon Rabbi? Seemingly, it doesn't make sense. How does it make sense to say kolu kol hakitzin, that all the end times, plural, have passed? Question is, when the ganze in from Keitz is, what's the concept of a Keitz, of an end time? As demol gate min arois from Galus. Then we leave Galus. That says, as Sidon no ein Keitz ha-Galus. There's only one end of Galus. On the Manda Amar was it gesagt ein Keitz. So the opinion that said one end time, had gewiss Scheule gewendem Keitz von der zweiten Manda. He definitely was negating the end time of another opinion. Vorem sagt, as in dem Zman, wird sein der Keitz ha-Galus. He holds that in a certain time, that's going to be the end of Galus, und nicht in der zweiten Zman, wie der andere Manda Amar sagt, and not in a different time, according to the other opinion. So what do we mean? There's different Kitzin. There's one Keitz. And to maybe put the question in a different light, seemingly, if one opinion said a Keitz and the Keitz passed, so seemingly that opinion was incorrect, right? So seemingly all of the Gedolei Yisrael, all of the great Torah sages that said Kitzin throughout all the generations, and Mashiach didn't come in all those different times, so seemingly they were all incorrect, because Mashiach didn't come. So what's going on here exactly? So how could there be many kitzim. So, is there bir bezeh? The Rebbe explained like this. Jeder man der Omar, was hat gesagt als man, wenn es wird sein der Keitz Galus. Every opinion who said a time when the end of Galus will be, hat gerett lefi der Gosse und Hasagosse in dem Indien von dem Rechush Gadol, was wird herauskommen von und nach dem Galus. So, every opinion was speaking about, every opinion spoke according to their understanding of what the Rebbe calls the Rechush Gadol, the great treasure that's going to come out of Galus. Early in the Farbrengen, the Rebbe explained a very important concept in Chassidus when it comes to the concept of Galus and Geula, of exile and redemption. So typically, sometimes we think of Galus and Geula in the sense of, okay, meanwhile we're in Galus, we're in exile, and we're waiting for the Geula, waiting for the redemption to come, and it's like, the Geula is like we're like children waiting for a candy, right? We're going to act good, and we're going to do good things, and then Hashem's going to reward us, He's going to give us a candy, and that's the Geula. So, the Rebbe explained that just like in Yetzias Mitzrayim, we're coming close to Pesach, in Mitzrayim, so it says that the Yidden, the Jewish people, so Hashem promised Avraham Avinu that V'achli Chein Yetzu B'Rechush Gadol, that they're going to be in Mitzrayim and afterwards they're going to leave with great wealth. So Avraham Avinu said, listen, he said, just let them leave Galus 1 second earlier and forget the Rechush Gadol. They don't need the Rechush Gadol. They don't need the great wealth. Let them leave Galus. So what's the answer? The answer is that the whole purpose of the Yidden being in Mitzrayim was for them to elevate Mitzrayim, to elevate Egypt, elevate all the Tzitzis HaKdusha, all the holy sparks that were in Mitzrayim. And that was the Rechush Gadol. That was the great wealth that they came out from Mitzrayim. It was the sparks of holiness, the sparks of Kedusha that they were taking out of Galus. So therefore, if they would have left Galus, they would have left Mitzrayim without the Rechush Gadol, without the treasure, that would have been missing the point. They would have been forfeiting the whole purpose of them being in Mitzrayim. The whole purpose was to take out all the sparks, take out the Rechush Gadol. So the Rebbe says it's a similar thing in our Galus now. Through our avodah in Galus, we are creating the Geula. We are drawing down. We are elevating the sparks of Kedusha that are in Galus, and we are preparing the world for the revelation of godliness that's going to be in the world, that's going to be a result of these Tzitzis HaKdusha that we elevated. So, the concept of a Keitz, the Rebbe is saying, is that each opinion, when they said the Keitz, there was, that according to their understanding of the Rechush Gadol, of this great treasure that we're accomplishing in Galus, so they spoke and they, so to say, understood how long we're going to be in Galus. And the Rebbe said, was doch verstandig bepashtus, as in dem Rechush Gadol was kommt a reis von nach dem Galus, eine nur kama v'kama dage. So it's understood simply that in this great treasure that's going to come out through the Avodah in Galus, there's many different levels. So we're skipping over here a little bit in the Farbrengen. The Rebbe says like this, that jeder man der Amma was hat gesagt, wenn es wird sein der Keitz Galus. Each opinion who spoke when the end of Galus is going to be, hat gerett, lefi der Gosse v'has hagosse in der Größkeit von dem Rechush Gadol, die Aliyah, was darauf aris kommen durch Yeridis HaGalus. Every opinion was speaking about the end of Galus, he was speaking according to his understanding and of the greatness of the Rechush Gadol, of this great wealth, this great elevation that's going to come out through the Yerid and Galus. Das heißt, what does this mean? Lefi erev dem Rechush Gadol was darf sein in der Geula. Meaning, based on the great treasure that's going to come out in the Geula, lefi zeh net men arois wie lang es darf sich ziehen in der Galus. Based on that, we calculate how long the Galus has to take. Was lefi erev dem Galus v'yerid. Da kommt is der Nacht, die Aliyah, der Rechush Gadol. Right? According to the length of Galus, that's going to determine how long it's going to take to reach that level of Rechush Gadol, of a great wealth in the spiritual sense, through the Avodah in Galus. So, and the Rebbe clarifies here, und das redt sich nicht nur wenn geht zu die man der Oma is in Gmorah. So there's many different sages, many different Chachamim throughout all the generations that said different kitzim, different end times for Galus. So we're not only talking, when we say this concept that each opinion they saw how long it's going to take for the Yidden to finish their Avodah and Galus, to reach that Rechush Gadol through the Avodah and Galus. We're not just talking about the opinions in the Gmorah. Vazogin when der Keitz Galus wird sein, who are speaking when the end of Galus will be. No, euch die Kitzin, was es haben gesagt, alle Gedolim Yisrael nach ins Manashas. We're talking about all the end times, and all sages spoke in all generations, even after the times of the Gmorah. Bis zu dem Keitz Hayadu from the Malton Rebbe. In the Drush al Pasuk, was Ha'elef Ushfa'an Meyos, the Sikwa HaKosher was that. There's a famous Keitz of the Alter Rebbe in the year of the year Tafrish, the whole story about it. We're not going to get into now. This them Keitz from Kvei Kedushas Moed V'Chami Anu with Tafshin Gimel to the Keitz of the Friedrich Rebbe in the year Tafshin Gimel, 1943. Was Demel gesagt, Alter L'Tshuvah, Alter L'Geula, which then the Friedrich Rebbe said, previous Rebbe said, that immediate Tshuvah will bring immediate redemption. Was jener einer von die was haben gesagt, die Keitz, man gerät auf der Gasse Bahasagasse in der Aliyah Rechush Gadol. Each opinion was speaking according to his understanding of this elevation and of this great treasure. Was wird sein, that will be when Mashiach comes. Und lefize hat ausgerechnet, wie viel Zeit es darf gedauert in die Avodah in the Zman Galus, and based on that he calculated how long the Avodah in Galus must be, bichdei zukommen, to kennen zukommen to Aliyah and Rechush Gadol, the Geula, in order to reach that Rechush Gadol in the Geula. Was davon ist verstandig? From this it's understood. It's not the pshat. We can't say as there was gesagt as später dik in Keitz had gewollt halten ihn länger in Galus. And that seems a very strange thing. Why should one opinion say that the Keitz is going to be much later or much further on than a previous opinion? Shouldn't we want Mashiach to come quicker? But that's not the idea behind this. No, as David The Rebbe is Ein Sof. The idea since Hashem is unlimited is b'shas es kum zu nocha hamshacha von Elokus. So when we draw down another level of godliness, der zetmen erst demelt, then we see as the nocha hechera darga in Elokus. I didn't say we see that there's another higher level of Elokus till no end. So in other words, what the Rebbe is saying is that it's only when you reach one level. So let's say the Alter Rebbe said the Keitz is going to be in Tafresh Ches, right, approximately in 1848. That year came, what happened? So, it says the Likutei Torah was printed. So once the Likutei Torah was printed, and that Hamshach of Elokus came into the world, we draw down that level of godliness, only then we realized that we could accomplish much more in Galus. And so then, we were pushed off to another Keitz. There was a Keitz in Tafresh Samach Vav in the year 1906 approximately. Then the Rabbi Rashab said the famous Hemshech of Samach Vav. And then another Keitz, right, many levels. So the Friedrich Rebbe, Tafshin Gimel, he saw in 1943, that was another Keitz. He saw that Yidden could reach a much greater level till Tafshin Gimel. So it's not that the Alter Rebbe didn't realize that, it's not that the Friedrich Rebbe wanted to hold us in Galus longer, or the Rabbi Rashab wanted to hold us in Galus longer than the Alter Rebbe. It's only that once we reach that level, only then was it recognizable, was it noticeable, even to the tzaddikim, what level we could reach. Was therefore is afilu noch der Ruf es einu hat gesagt der Keitz. So therefore, even after one opinion said a Keitz, wie tzadem was bei ihm ist ausgekommen, als die Meile von Iden al Idea Avigdasim in Zman HaGalus. Montereis as so viel Avoid in Zman HaGalus, wie viel mit Afavim bechtlei zukommen zu dem Rechush Gadol. So even after that opinion, they came to this understanding how much Yidden need to do in Galus till we reach the Rechush Gadol. Afal beginners do not gekommen at zweite, nevertheless another opinion came. Und tzadem was bei ihm is zugekommen in Torah. And because the next Gadol B'Yisrael, the next great Rebbe, or whoever it was, he had a greater understanding of Torah, Meravi Badam Ershtin, because he was in a later generation, so he had a greater understanding of Torah. Ubemeilas Bayim Sugakumen in Yediyas HaTorah, so you have a greater knowledge of Torah. Ubemeilas Bayim Sugakumen Mero in the Shleimus HaYediyah from the Ma'ila V'Sidin Keren Negrechen. So therefore he had a greater understanding of the level that the Jewish people can reach. And this is a much greater level than the first opinion. So Therefore, the zweite gesagt hat später dicken Keitz. Therefore, the second one said a later Keitz. Because he saw a much greater level in the Jewish people was they could reach through their avodah and Galus. So you realize, so we need more avodah and Galus, but they tzukum and so the in order to reach the higher level. And the same thing applies to those who said a later Keitz, and so on and so forth. So in other words, the Rebbe is giving us a much deeper understanding of what's going on over here. Okay, before that, the concept of a Keitz, of each opinion saying a Keitz, it's not that kol hakitzin, right? We ask, what does it mean, all the kitzin? There are kitzin. There's different, so to say, benchmarks in the avodah and Galus. And it's not that we didn't reach them. Of course, the Rebbe says, ilu zachinu, if we would have been zaycha, so the Geula we would have came at those different times. But once that Keitz passed, so it's not that we missed it, so to say. It's not that we missed it, we had a chance and we missed it. In a certain sense, that is true. But in a deeper sense, we reached it, and the Jewish people, through their avodah, they accomplished what needed to be accomplished at that time. It's just once we reach that, then we realize that we can come to an even greater level. And that's the concept of all the Keitz. Now the question is, now that we understand the general concept of a Keitz, I think now we can analyze the Rebbe's words. And I think when the Rebbe spoke about our time being the Zman HaGeula, I think the Rebbe meant something else, as we'll see. So, over here, this is the famous Sikha of Shabbos Parshas Shoftim, Tafshin and Aleph. This is translated into Lashon HaKodesh. The Rebbe edited in Yiddish. So the Rebbe talked in that Farbrengen. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Farbrengen, about how one of the prophecies of the Geula is V'ashiva shayftayich k'vo yishayna v'yatzayich k'vatchila, that Hashem is going to return the judges and the advisors. And the Rebbe spoke about how in this generation we have a shofet, and we have a yoyet, we have a judge, we have an advisor, we have a Rebbe. And the Rebbe said that the Rebbe is also a Navi, is also a prophet. And the Rebbe said the following thing: Yesh nahira kenal. We have an instruction. We have to tell everybody in our generation that we have the privilege that Hashem appointed a person who has free choice, that he himself was on a much greater level, incomparably greater than everybody else in the generation. That he should be our judge and our advisor and our prophet of this generation. That he should give us instruction, give us advice in regard to how we should do our avodah. And the Rebbe goes on in that in that vein. The Rebbe says, till he's a Navi, he told us the main Nevuah. What's the main Nevuah? He told us the Nevuah that Geula is immediate. And immediately, Mashiach is coming. So, what does this mean exactly? I want to understand exactly what does it mean. What does the Rebbe mean that there's a Nevuah, that there's a prophecy that Hinei Zeh Mashiach Ba? That right away Mashiach is coming. So, if you just take it at face value, it sounds like the Rebbe is saying that he's saying the Nevuah that Mashiach is coming this second. So, if that were the case, so obviously that second, Shabbos Parshas Shoftim Tafshin and Aleph, when the Rebbe said it, so Mashiach would have came that very second. It's a Nevuah. So I think maybe we have to understand what does it mean, Hinei Zeh Mashiach Ba, a little bit different, and also we have to understand what does it mean that it's a Nevuah. So in the footnote over here on these words, Hinei Zeh Mashiach Ba, the Rebbe clarifies what it means it's a Nevuah. So let's see. The Rebbe says over there in Hara 25, in the words Hinei Zeh Mashiach Ba, the Rebbe says as follows: Loirak betur Navi v'Shofet. The Rebbe is saying this not only as a Chacham v'Shofet, as a wise man or a judge, Ela betur Navi. The Rebbe is saying this as a prophet, and what's the advantage of saying it as a prophet? Shezehu bivados. It's for sure. And the Rebbe gives us sites. The Rebbe tells us to look in a mimer of the Alter Rebbe, and on page 355-56. So the Rebbe is telling us that what's the advantage of the Nevuah, that this is something for sure, as opposed to a Chacham or a Shofet that is not for sure. So what does this mean exactly? That when a wise person or a judge says something, it's not for sure, but if a Navi says something, it's for sure. Seemingly we're talking about a Chacham who's a Talmud Chacham who's saying something based on Torah. So what do you mean it's not for sure? He's just telling you things that he doesn't know or correct. That can't be. So obviously it means something deeper, and that's why the Rebbe is sending us to the Alter Rebbe's Maimer. So let's look at the Alter Rebbe's Maimer here. So the short Maimer, it's from Ad Wazay Hakzorim. So we can go through the whole Maimer. It's a very fascinating Maimer. It talks about the concept of Inyan Chacham Adif Minavi, the concept that a wise person is greater in a certain sense than a Navi. So it's interesting that that's how he starts off, because in fact he's going to explain also the advantage of a Navi over a Chacham. So he explains, Pirush HaChacham Ha'amiti B'Chachmas HaEmes. When we're talking about a Chacham, we're talking about a true Chacham, a true wise man who understands Chachmas HaEmes. He knows Kabbalah. Yachol L'Chasig B'Chacham Ilah Ba'ilmas Al-Yedim. He can understand Hashem's wisdom in the higher worlds. He can understand and see in Hashem's wisdom in the higher worlds, he can see future events. So this is the concept over here, which we're all familiar with, the concept of Hishtalshalos. So we know that Hashem created the world through this concept called Hishtalshalos, this chain-like descent, which basically means that everything that happens in this world is really a result of something spiritual that's happening in a deeper realm. So, really everything that happens in this physical world, so to say, happened already in a spiritual world. You could go on to this concept and discuss it for a while. There's a story of the Baal Shem Tov with his brother-in-law that brings out this concept, but just the basic idea. So, it says like this. So, a Chacham is someone, he sees the spiritual equivalent of what happens down here. He sees the way it exists in the spiritual world. Now the thing is like this. But when it comes down into this world, it's possible that things should change around. He sees the concept, the way it exists in Hashem's wisdom. The truth is that is the way it exists there. However, that same concept will exist in all the lower worlds. Till it goes through this whole hishtalshalos, this whole chain-like descent, till it comes down to this lowly world. And it's possible that the words of the Chacham should not be fulfilled in this world. Why? Because of many things which could block it, that it shouldn't happen in this world. Although it happened up there, but when it comes down into this world, it doesn't materialize in the same way. The Afal became Emes Haya. Nevertheless, it was true what he said. The Makim Shirahu, where in the place that he saw, he was talking about what he saw in the spiritual world. Vidal, and this is enough for those who understand. So that's a Chacham. Masha'in came b'chinas Navi. However, a Navi, what's the concept of a prophet? He's Nivs Vasayim. A Navi is someone, comes from the word Nivs Vasayim, the speech of the lips, who b'chinas Dibur. He's the concept of speech. So not only does a Navi speak, but he is connected to Hashem's speech. Hashem created the world through his speech. Therefore, if it goes through the whole hishtalshos till it reaches the words of the Navi, it will definitely be fulfilled because it was already created. In other words, Hashem creates the world through his speech. So once it reaches Hashem's speech, it must happen, because it's when Hashem speaks, things happen. Oh, now he relates this to the concept of Keitz. And this, you'll see that this it echoes the Rebbe's words from that Farbrengen of Devarim Tavshin Mem, 1980. The Yuvan B'zeh Inyan Masha Klasu B'Zoya will understand the concept, what does it say in the Zohar? Rabbi Markowitz mentioned last week that the Zohar says that the Keitz, the end time, should have been in the year Tavches, approximately the year 1648. Definitely, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the Zohar, he definitely saw the truth. That would be the Keitz. So what happened? It's like we said before, he saw the level of Mashiach the way it exists in Hashem's wisdom. Because the level of Mashiach you have in every world. Till it gets down to this world. But till Mashiach will be created here, Nishtana, it was changed, but they come because of many different things, many different obstacles which were created. So that's all because Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he was speaking as a chacham. He was speaking as a wise man. He saw the way things existed in the spiritual world. If it would have came to the mouth of a Navi, for sure it would have been fulfilled without any deviation. Because the level of godliness which is revealed down here to the level of speech, which is this world, the speech of Hashem is the life of this world, and its existence of and the entire world is created through Hashem's speech. Therefore, all the words of Hashem to the Nevi'im, nothing was not fulfilled, even to the point of a yud, to the T. However, what the sages, what they understood, there were changes. Even though they're on a higher level, because they understand the source, the way it exists on a higher level. Meaning to say that there's no bread to the wise, meaning just because they see the way it exists in the higher worlds doesn't mean that down here that's what's going to happen. So now let's put two and two together. So the Rebbe is saying over here is as follows. The Rebbe is saying his nevuah, that he neizeh Mashiach ba, the Rebbe is saying this is a nevuah. The Rebbe is telling us that it's not a Keitz. All the previous generations, when all the Gedolei Yisrael, when they spoke about all the different Keitzin, they saw the Rechush Gadol, like the Rebbe says in Tashim, they saw the Rechush Gadol, they saw the level that Jewish people can reach through the Avodah and Galus, and they saw that in a spiritual way, when the Jewish people will reach that level, so Mashiach will come. What happened? What happened was exactly what the Alter Rebbe describes here, that it for whatever reason, it wasn't Mishtalshel, didn't come down into this world. The Rebbe is saying with this that I'm telling you, that Hinei Zeh Mashiach ba, the Mashiach is coming. This is a nevuah. This is something which has already come down into this world, and therefore it's going to happen. Like going back, the Rebbe says, "Shezehu bivados." It's for sure. This is not something that might change through going through the whole ishtalshel. This is something that's for sure. So we just need to understand. So, what does the Rebbe mean? So, what is the nevuah? So, what is the nevuah of Hinei Zeh Mashiach ba? So, obviously, it doesn't mean that Mashiach is coming right now, this second, because otherwise Mashiach would have came, right? The Rebbe says that a nevuah means that it's something that's going to happen. It would have came that second. So, what are you going to tell me? You're going to tell me that it means that before we get to that next sikha, what are you going to tell me? So it means that Mashiach is coming in the future. So what does that mean? So how do you determine that? How do you say he's coming? Mashiach has always been coming, right? He's always been coming. What has changed now that the Rebbe said that Mashiach is coming, right? He's coming, and now it's already been 27 years almost since the Rebbe spoke that. So what is the meaning of coming? So I'd like to suggest that maybe what the Rebbe is not talking about a future event. The Rebbe is talking about a present event. There's different types of nevuahs. So there's a type of nevuah where a Navi talks about something that happens in the future. Then there's another type of nevuah. For example, in Nach we find that when Shaul was looking for his donkeys, he went to Shmuel Hanavi, and he asked Shmuel Hanavi, where are his donkeys? So Shmuel Hanavi told him where the donkeys were. So now, the donkeys existed in this world. Why did he go to Shmuel? Because the Navi can see things that exist in this world that not everybody can see. So in other words, sometimes you have an nevuah about something that's happening in the future, and sometimes you have a nevuah about something that's happening in the present, but just we can't see. So we need the Navi to tell us where it is or what's happening because we can't see it with our own eyes. Or maybe we can see it, but we don't know what we're seeing. So I think what the Rebbe said, when the Rebbe is saying that he nezem Mashiach ba, the Rebbe is saying a present, a fact, something that's happening right now in the present. So I didn't put this on the clip, but I'll tell you on Chavav Adar Tafshin Nun Beis. That means a day before Chav Zayin Adar, before the Rebbe suffered a stroke in 1992, March 1st, 1992. So Sunday, on the dollar line, there was an individual who came by the Rebbe from the New York Post, and the Rebbe told him about publicizing in the newspaper about the coming of Mashiach. And the Rebbe said that his message is that the Rebbe says Mashiach is coming soon, and the Rebbe says not coming, but he's already on his way. That's what the Rebbe said. The Rebbe said Mashiach is not only he's not coming. That's, I think the Rebbe's word, not coming. He's already on his way. You can look in. It's in the. You can look in the. If you have the pninim, if you have the dollar line, I think it's in the last number 10. I think it's about an hour and 28 minutes into the video. Yeah, you can check it. You can check it yourself. You can watch it. Hear exactly what the Rebbe says. So the Rebbe is saying over here, I think that's the same word. What is Hinei Zeh Mashiach Ba? What does that mean? Mashiach is coming, meaning that Mashiach is on his way. So I think also we'll explain maybe a little bit what that means in a second. But look in the Farbrengen of a couple weeks earlier of Shabbos Pashas Balak Tafshin and Aleph, also 1991. Rebbe talks about how that we are we're literally very close to the ultimate complete redemption. Rebbe says that Shanazu is Teheshnas Neflois Arenu. We're skipping down. The Rebbe says Ukvaro Bepoil Neflois. We already saw miracles. Hameidim Shizui Hashana Shemalach HaMashiach Niklo. This is the year in which Melech HaMashiach is revealed. Va'ad l'shah Shemalach HaMashiach ba. We've reached the hour that Melech HaMashiach came or is coming. And he's telling the Jewish people, humble ones, the time of your redemption has arrived. He's announced to us that Mashiach is ba. And the Rebbe explained, what does ba mean? Shekvar ba. What does kvar ba mean? The Rebbe said it many times. So you could translate it, he already came. It could be sometimes that's what the Rebbe means. But I think what the Rebbe means over here, Shekvar ba, means exactly what the Rebbe told the news reporter. He's already coming. He's already on his way. Hainu sha'imdim kvar. And the Rebbe defines, what does that mean? Sha'imdim kvar al saf haschalas Yemei Mashiach. We're already holding on the threshold of the beginning of Yemei Mashiach. Al saf haschalas Geula. We're holding on the threshold of the beginning of the Geula of a takeoff from Yanam Shechasa V'Shlomus. And therefore, automatically, the continuation. So just even clear, where the Rebbe says clearly over here that this is not a regular Keitz. Going back a couple weeks, Shabbos Pashas Tazriya Metzira Tafshin and Aleph, also 1991. Right after the famous Sikha of Chav Ches Nissen, where the Rebbe told us that he did everything to bring Mashiach and now it's up to us. The Rebbe said, Kivin should be Yameinu Eila Mamish. The Rebbe says in these days, Im Siyumei Shel Chodesh Nissen, the Hayatei Shnas Aren and the Flies, with the end of the month of Nisan, Kol Hakitzin, Keitz Hayamim, the Keitz Hayamim, Kipshutei Mamish. The Rebbe said, now we can say Kol Hakitzin in the literal sense. In the footnote, the Rebbe says, Naisav Lakach Shabbos Man HaGemorah Kvar Kol Hakitzin. In other words, in the Gmorah, when it says Kol Hakitzin, that all the Kitzim have been finished, you could explain in many different ways. What does that mean? It means that even that it's really up to us, and we don't have to wait for a Keitz. The Rebbe is saying that now it's Kol Hakitzin B'Pashtos. The Pashtos, Kipshutei Mamish. Therefore, Bevade should take it from Yad Ba Mashiach Tzadkeinu. V'kol echad v'echad marabetz v'oy v'ayma, Hinei Zeh Melech HaMashiach Ba, Shekvar Ba B'rega Ba, B'lashon Haba B'rega Shlot Nezeh. That's already seemingly another explanation of Shekvar Ba, that he's coming so soon that it's as if he already came. So what does it mean exactly that the Mashiach is already on his way? So I think getting back to the Alter Rebbe's words. The difference between a Chacham and a Navi. That when a Navi says it, it's something that already came into this world. So I think what the Rebbe is saying is as follows. That by all of the other Kitzin, so obviously the Jewish people, we reached a certain level, we reached a certain benchmark, we accomplished something, and then we moved on. The Rebbe is saying now that in a certain sense, the Geula has already came into the world. It's already affecting the world. So let's just take just look at one sikha over here from Shabbos Parshas Vayishlach Tavshin and Beis. The Rebbe says as follows. After the avodah of Yidden throughout all the generations, definitely after the revelation of Chassidus on the 19th of Kislev, which then began the main concept of spreading out the wellsprings of Chassidus. And it's continuing through the Rebbe from one generation to the next. Till the previous Rebbe, which through the Heretic Rebbe, Chassidus was spread throughout the entire world. So therefore, the Rebbe is saying we finished everything, also from the perspective, also in and from the side of the world, so to say. The world is ready. As the Heretic Rebbe let us know, and he announced that we finished everything. We've polished the buttons. As he said many times that all we need to polish the buttons, we've done that as well. And therefore everything is ready now for the coming of Mashiach. So says the Rebbe concludes, we then move on, which based on this it's understood, since we finished everything, that the continuation of our avodah following this, as long as Mashiach is delaying for whatever reason, built to Yedu Muvenas Klal, which is totally not understood, it's not of the regular avodas habirurim, shekvar nestaim of initial avodas habirurim, el avodim yuchedes lahavi has Galus b'payil b'olam. This is a special avodah to reveal Mashiach in the world. In other words, the Rebbe is saying is as follows: that till this point, we were working on the Rechush Gadol, we were working on the Birurim, we were working on creating the revelation of Elikus, of godliness, that is going to be revealed when Mashiach comes. The Rebbe said we've created that already. We've created, in a spiritual sense, the Geula, and the Geula has already started coming into the world. It's already started affecting the world. Now, what is our Avodah? Our Avodah now is to reveal it in the world. So now, practically speaking, so how do we see it? So first of all, I want to clarify that the Rebbe at the end of the day is saying it's a nevuah. Why is the Rebbe telling us it's a nevuah, it's a prophecy? Because it's something that we can't necessarily see with our own eyes and be able to point to it and say that this is Geula. Therefore you need a Navi, you need a prophet, you need the Rebbe to come tell us that what you're seeing now, this is the Geula that's coming into the world. So the Rebbe, in these years, in Tavshin and Aleph and Beis, 91 and 92, the Rebbe pointed to a few changes that happened in the world, permanent changes in the world, that show the fact that the Geula has already came into the world and has already started affecting the world. Just to cite a few examples. The Rebbe spoke about the fact that what is Mashiach all about, halachically speaking? Mashiach is about, it's an era when we'll be able to fulfill Torah and mitzvahs completely and perfectly. All the Jewish people will be in Eretz Yisrael, will be able to bring karbanos. So the Rebbe said, now, finally, in Galus, we've reached a stage where there's almost not a single Jew in the entire world who doesn't have the freedom to practice Torah mitzvahs. Something that never existed in previous generations. In all the previous generations, we were always persecuted by all the nations. And they tried to stop us from doing Torah mitzvahs. And the Rebbe pointed especially to the fall of communism. Then we saw that finally, even in the one of the superpowers of the world, finally, even in that place, Yidden Jews were able to fulfill Torah mitzvahs. And just to clarify, this is something. It's It's against the whole concept of Galus. The whole concept of exile is that it's a helam v'hester and alakus. It's concealing godliness. The reason why it's difficult to fulfill Torah mitzvahs in Galus is because it's Galus, because it's exile. That's what exile is. We don't see where godliness is not open. Suddenly we live in a world where we're able to fulfill Hashem's will. Just the only thing that's stopping us is our own nefesh habahamis, our own yetzer hara. But the world itself is ready. It's ready for this. It's ready for this actualization that every yid should fulfill Torah mitzvahs. And the Rebbe carried it over to the Goyim themselves. The Goyim themselves in previous generations. What were they? What was the every superpower, every great nation? What was it all about? It was all about conquering other lands, conquering other nations, right? All about becoming the greatest superpower. They didn't care about peace. They didn't care about human life or anything like that. They didn't care about any of that, right? And that was so understood. And suddenly now the whole consciousness of the world has changed. And now suddenly everything is about peace and about. Of course, the world is not perfect. Of course, people have distorted ideas of what that means. At the end of the day, we're still in Galus, right? But the point is, and the Rebbe is pointing to changes in the world that are permanent changes in the world, that the whole conscious and the whole existence of the world has totally changed. So all of these things, all this shows on the fact that the Geula already came into the world. So what does that mean, practically speaking? The Rebbe is saying, practically speaking, it means that first of all, you should know, the Rebbe keeps on saying that we don't know why Mashiach didn't come. What does it mean he doesn't know why Mashiach didn't come? Obviously, we have to reveal Mashiach in the world. That's why he didn't come. So I think what the Rebbe's message to us is, the Rebbe is telling us, it's not that we need to fix some other thing in order for Mashiach to come. As Mashiach is here in the world, we need to open up our eyes, the Rebbe keeps on saying. We need to reveal Mashiach in the world. In other words, if it's a process, so we understand it's a process, right? You need to get there. Just to give a silly mashal, if you're driving down, on the I-94, right, during rush hour, right, and you're stuck in traffic, right, so you're stuck in traffic, right, because it's normal at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, there's traffic, right, you're trying to get from downtown back home, of course, there's traffic, right, it's a process, right, you have to go through the process. If you're driving down California, right, 12 o'clock California Avenue in the middle of the day, right, and suddenly you're stopped, right? So obviously there's a reason why you're stopped. Obviously you need to either go around or swerve around, right? But what's the thought that comes into your head? Why am I stopped? What's going on over here, right? Why is there traffic? Why are all the cars stopped? I think that's what the Rebbe is telling us. The Rebbe is telling us that the Geula is here. Of course we need to do something. Of course we need to reveal it. But the Rebbe is telling us it's right here. It's right here. It's not that you have to go through a whole process and reach another level of Rechush God. It's here in front of your eyes. All you need to do is reveal it in the world. Something that can happen in an instant. And therefore, the fact that Mashiach didn't come is built in the Yirum of Venice. It's not understood. Because Mashiach is here. I know it's been a long time, right? But it doesn't take away from what the Rebbe is saying. Because the Rebbe said these were permanent changes in the world. So the Nakuda is we have to take, the Rebbe is telling this for a reason. We have to take this to heart and realize the opportunity that we have. A lot of these changes we just take for granted. So therefore we don't realize that these are signs of the Geula. And the truth is that itself shows that it's part of the Geula. The fact that creation's in Galus, so we still plan to learn about Mashiach after Pesach, and we're going to learn about after Pesach. The series is going to be about the connection between Mashiach and davening, a lot of different inyanim, very interesting things to try to connect Mashiach with our daily davening and in general the concept of davening. So stay tuned and invite all your friends. Okay, any questions?
So I guess the question I have is, you're saying that the original title of the shir is Vuhaltman, where are we
Yeah.
right? And so there are different lashonos that the Rebbe uses, which are like you were saying yourself, that sometimes it could be that it already came, and sometimes it could be that he's saying that he's on his way. And so I'm just trying to clarify to see if I understood you correctly. You're saying that this process of of Mashiach being on his way, not just coming, but being on his way, like you said in $5, that is not it's not a problem. It's not a stira to what the Rebbe said to the matzah that we're in right now. The fact that it's been 27 years since the Rebbe said that $1, you're saying it's not a stira because Taka, it's not a it's not a question of, okay, so what more do we have to do in order to make his arrival finally be here? It's like the arrival already has already happened. It's just for us to be aware that it's happened. That kind of thing.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, the Rebbe said a lot of different lashonos. I don't know if I know what they all mean, but generally speaking, what's clear to me is what the Rebbe was speaking about. The Rebbe was talking about something that happened. The Rebbe says that Mashiach came into the world, so to say. The Rebbe says is that now our avodah is to reveal Mashiach in the world, or open our eyes and see Mashiach in the world. So obviously that's an avodah. The Rebbe calls it avodah. Avodah means something that you have to work on, right? It's something you have to do. It's not something that's necessarily going to happen automatically, meaning sometimes the Rebbe says Hashem should open our eyes, right? In other words, it's obviously like it was always possible. Hashem will obviously be the one to ultimately decide when it's going to happen. But the point is, it's not that the Rebbe said it back then and then, okay, now we're going to the next Keitz and who knows when the next Keitz is. This is different. In other words, this Rebbe is saying Mashiach came into the world and now it's a new avodah. It's not about another process of reaching another level, right? It's not about creating a new higher revelation. It's about revealing Mashiach that he already is on his way, that already came into the world.
So does that mean that any nekuda of Nisyonos and Avodas HaBirurim, all the different inyanim that it's explained, starting from Tanya all the way until these sichos were said, are all of those inyanim not really nagea nowadays? At least I don't mean like not nagea period. I mean like the main nekuda of them is not like so nagea anymore, because it seems like we're already past all of that.
Like doesn't affect Mashiach.
Or it doesn't.
So,
it's not important.
Okay, you're asking a good question, which is really a whole nother shiur. It's really another whole shiur, which is all the different, which is really all the different concepts. The Rebbe says a lot of interesting things like nistaima avodas habirurim, right? We finish this concept of birurim, of elevating all the sparks. So now, when Chassidus talks about avodas habirurim, that's one of the things that Chassidus talks about. So is that relevant now, or are we past that already, and is it just like something of the past, right? Or that would be like the prime example of something. So the answer, the short answer is I don't know, but what I think is that all of these concepts that we talk about in Chassidus, Torah is nitzchis, right? Torah is everlasting, and everything. There's a concept of hiskalolus, which means that concept that even when you reach a higher level, it's like maskirin yetzias mitzrayim la'asid lavi. Even when Mashiach will come, so seemingly we've already forgot about yetzias mitzrayim, so we're already on the next level. But the concept of yetzias mitzrayim will still exist. So we'll already be on the higher. It says yetzias mitzrayim is a skafia, la'asid lavi is a sapcha, right? So seemingly once you reach a sapcha, what do you need a skafia for? Seemingly. So Chassidus says, nevertheless, it's possible, even once you reach the level of a sapta, you can still remind yourself of the concept of a skafia. In other words, in Torah, everything is emes, and everything exists on all levels. So, it could be in a certain sense, nistaima avodas habirurim, so therefore, in a certain sense, the same type of birurim that we had before don't exist. But now there's a higher level of birurim. I heard myself from Rabbi Tzvibel, he said that Chassidus, it says, there's a birur rishon and birur sheni. So it says we finished the birur rishon and now we're doing the birur sheni. I don't know if he had a mucker or any source to say that, but in other words, you're talking about a yid who, do the whole Chassidus back and forth, and he said it as a davar pashut, yeah, and that there's one level of birur and there's a higher level of birurim. So anything that it says in Torah, there's nothing that becomes obsolete, and nothing. Chassidus is on the contrary. Chassidus is Torah Shel Moshiach. The Rebbe spoke about learning Chassidus as a team, as a foretaste of the Geula in these sichos of Tafshin and Aleph and Tafshin and Beis. So obviously the Rebbe wasn't telling us, okay, well, just like skip out all the parts that, or just like the Galus parts, right? The Rebbe spoke about learning Tanya and translating Tanya and everything. The Rebbe was saying this is part of, it's not a Galus sefer, it's a Geula sefer.
And the matzah of Nisyonos, we were saying about how Mashiach is already in the world, and there's all these proofs and clear simonim of it, of all the positive things that are happening. But the pile, you see that there's also, meaning to say, it's not just subjective, a communistic Messiah that people can have. People can have Nisyonos that are objective, that are target coming from the world, from outside of them. And it's not just their own mishigas or their own, limited personal limitations, but people can have have issues with parnasa, issues with brias, issues with having children, or with children that aren't healthy. There still are very dangerous forces in the world. There's in Iran in the world. There's in North Korea in the world. How is there a room for such things if Mashiach is taka here? How is there room for such things? How is there room for the chaos that still exists?
So you're asking, seemingly, the Rebbe is pointing to all the different simanim, all these signs of the Geula, and so, correct, right? There are certain signs of the Geula, but seemingly there is a lot of negativity in the world. There's a lot of forces in the world. Seemingly there's a lot of Galus, signs of Galus to the left in the world. So, granted, there are signs of Geula, but there's signs of Galus. So, what does it mean that we've, so to say, that the world is ready, the world is finished? So, I think. Once again, I don't know, but I don't know the answer. But I think you have to go back to the premise. The premise, the Rebbe is saying a nevuah. A nevuah is something that you don't necessarily see, right? Don't necessarily see. We have a very limited perspective. So when we see, what does it mean the world is ready, right? What does the world mean exactly? What is the definition of the world being ready for Mashiach exactly, right? The Rebbe is telling us and pointing to certain things. He said, you should know that if this happens, this is a sign of Geula. For me to come and say, the fact that there's the fall of communism is a sign of Geula, that doesn't mean anything, because I don't know if it's a sign of Geula. Maybe it's just a one-time occurrence, the nace that Hashem made, right? The Rebbe is coming and telling me, the Rebbe as a Navi is telling me that this is a sign of Geula, because the Rebbe knows what's happening above and what's happening in the spiritual realms. The Rebbe sees the totality of the Avodah of Eden Galus, and the Rebbe sees what's really happening. So the Rebbe is telling us, like for our Nefesh HaBahamas, so to say, that you should know that in case you don't trust me, so to say, right? Look, and this is a sign of the Geula, right? But of course, right, we don't know exactly, why certain things are still happening and what exactly it means and how is the world ready for Geula despite all the things that are still that are still happening. I mean, just to give maybe a little bit of an analogy to the concept. Sometimes, as a teacher, you have children who are misbehaving. They're misbehaving in class, right? So they're like a major issue, and sometimes you might seem to the teacher this is a major issue, right? In other words, they have this is a major issue. They're not learning and everything, and on the surface, it looks like they're completely out to lunch and totally not interested in learning. And sometimes it could be the issue is it's such a minute issue, and as soon as you fix this minor thing, so a major problem suddenly turns into no problem whatsoever. So really, are they ready to learn? Are they willing to learn? Yes, right. Maybe there's a technical issue, right? Maybe they have an earache that day, right? So that's why whatever certain things that that's a very external thing that it's not really that's not really a. You wouldn't say that they're not ready to learn. They're not they need to go through therapy, right? So we have a very limited perspective. Look in the world, say, these problems. Look, and sometimes it's just could be it's a very chitzainistic thing. It's an external thing that we don't have a deeper understanding. We don't really understand what's happening.
Shukriya.